Good morning, Year 7, and welcome to the video tutorial for the second lesson of this week. It's the week beginning the 27th of April. So last lesson, hopefully, you had a read of the extract from chapter 9 of Animal Farm, and you've had a go at the quiz, which is submitted via forms, which just tests to see how well you were reading the extract. Or multiple choice. Have a go. Ready? Today's lesson, we're actually spending 2 lessons this week looking at non-fiction writing. We've obviously been doing lots of persuading. We're going to branch out slightly today and prepare for tomorrow's activity, which is extended writing, but kind of an opinion article, which is a bit trickier than persuasion. So today we're going to have a read of an example of an opinion article. The title is Families Don't Need Much Money to Be Happy, and our objective is to read, understand, and infer the writer's opinions. So you will need, firstly, if you've got some paper you might like to write down the writing objective, and you're going to need a copy of the article, which looks like this. And the first thing I need you to do is pause here and read the whole article all the way through, and then we're going to have a look at these answers. So pause here and read the article. Okay, so let's have a look through some of these answers. So this first bit actually doesn't require any writing down. It's literally just an explanation. So you've got a title, and this is actually called a stand first in the publishing world. A form of introduction that you find in an article. It sums up the writer's opinion. And it's probably written after the article, but it's something you could think about for your writing task tomorrow. Okay, first bit. Does he agree with his parents' views on money? Tricky, because he says, obviously they were severely deluded, but I can't quite shake off the idea. Get your purple pens out for this marking time. So I've noted that as some evidence of whether he agrees. So I'm going to say partly. He thinks wealth feels important as a child, but he sees now that money doesn't equal happiness. So the word deluded, if you're deluded about something, then you believe in something that is not real. So his parents believe in what is not real. So they think money is not important for happiness. Well, perhaps as a teenager he felt that was true, but he does say that now he can't shake off the idea that money doesn't equal happiness. Okay, so I'm going to go with partly. Second one, what do children have that cannot be bought? Well, I'm going to say imagination, wonder, and innocence, which is over here. So he says children have things that cannot be bought. I don't know whether you would agree with that, but he's saying those are things that make children really happy. Notice how he exaggerates. So I know we talk about persuasive writing. Notice how he exaggerates to sort of simplify his point. The idea that you need bags of cash to have happy children is absurd. He's literally imagining, people carrying around big bags full of cash money, and he's using that to contrast this simplified idea of imagination, wonder, and innocence. Of course, the reality is that poverty can be just as difficult and dissatisfying as great wealth. A bit more complicated. Okay, what do you think non-Ponzi means? Now, this one, you need to really look at the context of what's being said. So, Ponzi comes from... Ponzi in this. There we go, down here. Like having non-Ponzi family. Now, it says... his kids just want to come home, play computer games, watch TV, like any non-Ponzi family might wish. Ponzi basically means something that thinks it's better than it is. So if you think you're all that, but really, maybe you're not. So non-Ponzi is basically the opposite. It's not pretending, being natural, maybe being unambitious. So notice how he's contrasting this idea of if you aspire, you have high hopes. So his expensive jaunts to an attraction with cultural aspiration, that's kind of ambitious, trying to better yourself, more cultured. But he says children themselves seem to lack that aspiration. They're just a little bit less ambitious. He said compared to an enriching trip to a gallery, this seems less ambitious. Okay, so non-poncy, not pretending, being natural. If you've got something similar to that, give us a tick. What do you think dysfunctional means? Well, he's talking about dysfunctional communities there, and he's talking about the effects of poverty, or possibly sort of what poverty is linked to. So saying poor houses, disconnected community, dysfunctional community. Well, it literally means not functioning. So you give yourself a tick if you put that. Or a community that fails to care for one another. Maybe therefore it's dangerous. Or it could even be quite literally talking about things like gangs or crime. A community that doesn't look after its members, although gang culture may appear to be very caring. Of course, what it's really doing is encouraging young people to get involved in criminality, which isn't really caring. So it could be that he's being obtusely referring to the link between poverty and gang culture. And down here we've got, according to the text, which is most important, community and family, or material wealth? Well, here he says close community and loving family can compensate for material discomforts. I think he's saying community and family are more important than material wealth. And that's the quote I've chosen, this bit and this bit. But he has got a caveat for that, which is some people are suffering from the effects of poverty on their family and community. So although being rich doesn't make you happy, being poor doesn't mean you're necessarily happy either, because it can bring difficulties. Okay, second slide. What does the word extravagant suggest about the presents the children receive? Let's have a look at the word extravagant. So if it's extravagant, it means it's probably more expensive than it needs to be. Maybe they've spent too much, possibly they've wasted money on their children's presents. Why would it be wasteful? Maybe it's more than the child could appreciate or more than they need. So it might suggest that actually the parents are buying more than the child will actually even appreciate. Perhaps even suggesting that a child doesn't know the difference between a really fancy present and a cheaper one. Okay, the writer uses circular or cyclical. Those words basically means the same thing. It just means circle-shaped. Circle-shaped structure. To return to the idea he began with, does he agree with his parents here? Highlight the evidence and explain. So he opens with this rhetorical question. Were my parents right? They were right about children not needing much, but rather more misguided about teenagers. They had, however, the right attitude to themselves. They never cared about luxury and were content with what little they had. So, highlight the evidence. Well, he thinks they were right about children, but the teenagers do care more, perhaps because of the need to fit in and how hard that is if you haven't got enough money to buy the stuff to fit in, or perhaps because teenagers are gaining self-awareness, so they're aware of the ways in which they might look different because of the amount of money they have. Okay, I'm going to stop here, and in the next video we're going to have a look at how we can infer the writer's attitudes.